For those of you who were in serious relationships in their early 20s, how did it turn out? Saw the post about dating late and now I'm curious. Edit. Thanks to all commenters for their words of wisdom, as well as the kind redditor for the silver. I didn't expect much conversation from this, but I love seeing your perspectives, and while there have been some less positive stories, the happy ones, regardless of how the relationship turned out, are inspiring and heartwarming. Thanks for fueling the hopelessly hopeful romantic within me. It turned out pretty well. I dated this guy in my 20s. He was a great person, but we just weren't compatible. My pet parrot loves him, though, and my ex has been my bird sitter for the past decade. I'm 40 now. We are still great friends. He's a stellar human being. Sounds like your pet parrot is a good judge of character then. I'm glad to hear that though. Thanks for replying. Dated one dude from 16 to 20 and another from 20 to 24. Both had their share of breakups and reconciliations. Both thankfully ended because they were huge mistakes. But hey, I learned from them. When you break up, it's because something is broken. I had a live-in boyfriend when I was 20 to 23 and he was 24 to 27. He was really serious and asked me to marry him, but I wasn't deeply in love with him and said no, so the relationship ended. I had really low self-esteem from an abusive childhood, and he was the first person who made me feel like I deserve love, and I will always be grateful for this relationship, even though it didn't work out. I'm glad that you can see the best in the relationship, even if it didn't work out. And it's good that you didn't go along with it despite not being deeply in love with him. Kudos to you. Thank you. He has been married to his wife for like 8 years now and has 2 beautiful little girls, and I'm happily married to the love of my life and pregnant with our first. I'm 28 years old now and met my so when we were 18. We are engaged now, own a house together, and have a cat. So great. Relationship started when we were both 14, engaged at 19, married at 24, ended at 26, and divorced by 27. Wish I'd just stayed single and had the opportunity to enjoy my early 20s instead of being stuck in an abusive relationship. Hindsight can suck sometimes, but I hope you're doing well now and making up for the enjoyment and life things that you lost. I am. Thank you. It taught me a lot, but I'll definitely be encouraging my daughter to spread her wings a little in her 20s. Great so far. Married. Went through a horrible immigration process. And now we are finally living together. I started dating my spouse at 19. We were immediately serious. Now we are both in our 30s and we have a kid and are married. It's worked out super well for us. My first serious relationship was from age 18 to 22. It taught me a lot about what healthy love can look like, and also eased me into having sex with men. I had previously only had sex with women and non-binary people, and the idea of sex with men made me very anxious at the time. Close bracket. So it was helpful in many ways. And a positive experience. Even though we ended up breaking up because we were growing in different directions. I'm glad that you learned about healthy relationships then. It seems like it set you up for a good stable understanding of relationships. I guess the thing that counts is that you kept on growing as a person too. Got together when I was 20, now 11 years ago. Had some issues at the 7-year mark. Separated for a year and went as close to no contact as one can as co-parents of a dog. Then reconnected and admitted we took each other for granted and really wanted to be together. Happily live together again. Dog is happier than ever. We were both 21 when we met and got together. We are now 32 and 33. And while neither of us wants to get married or have children, we do both want and intend to stay together for life. Met my husband at 21, married at 23, and we just had our 24th wedding anniversary. I'm not going to say there weren't really hard times, but aside from a few random rough years, it's been pretty amazing. Oh wow, that's amazing. Happy anniversary, and I hope we're not in the midst of a pandemic when you're celebrating your 25th. I dated a guy when I was 18 and we broke up 3 years later. He decided that he wanted to be single after he graduated. There were a lot of red flags in that relationship that I overlooked while I was in it. We dated for about 4 years. I travel for work, healthcare, and came home late last year. Drove 500 miles home for him to say we need to talk and break it off out of nowhere. No warning signs. I was devastated, to say the least. We had lived together for 2 years and often talked about marriage, buying a home, etc. I think he was seeing other people. Met at 14. Dated at 15. Moved in together at 18. Engaged at 24. Married at 25. Throughout our entire relationship we have communicated on everything. We've never even have had a true fight or argument, as one of us always admits who's in the wrong in the first place. We are best friends and partners and everything. Now we are trying for our first kid. I met my partner when I was 20 and they were 28. It was meant to be just ref WB situation, but we grew to really like each other more than that. We've been together ever since, and I couldn't be happier. I can't imagine being thrown back out into the wild west of dating again. Not very well. We got together when I was 19 and dated for almost 6 years. Around our 5-year mark, I asked him if he was ever going to propose, since we had both always agreed we wanted to get married one day. His response was a lot of silence and I don't know. From there it was a disaster and we were both really toxic to each other. The breakup and its aftermath were tough. I don't really regret anything, I guess, cause you have to live it to learn it, but it's definitely hard looking back on it now. My biggest lesson learned is that good communication is far and away the most important thing. I was too young to know how much our mutual communication issues were killing us. Met him when I was 21 after my mother died. We traveled and experimented with drugs early on. Eventually we grew up and had a daughter. From the outside we looked perfect. Behind closed doors he screamed at me, controlled me, and isolated me from my friends and family. When my daughter was 2 he found a new girl at work. I found out and divorced him at 31. Wasted my 20s being locked down with an asshole. I got super lucky. Met in high school. Started dating senior year. Did 4+ years of long distance while in college. Got married in 2013. Still happily together. Despite my figuring out him translator in life in my early 30s. She's amazing. So, it's going pretty well so far. Equals. I'm so happy that you felt comfortable in yourself and your relationship and how you seem to have gone from strength to strength. All the best for the future. We started dating at 14. Got engaged at 19. Moved in together at 22. Married at 26. During those intervening years, we graduated high school. Lost his mother to cancer. Graduated from undergrad. Finished our master's degrees. Now he is finishing his doctorate and we are eventually planning to move and buy a house closer to our families. Since both of our careers allow us to work anywhere. It was a train wreck. My ex was a chronic cheater, but I loved him and couldn't end it. Got pregnant. Bought a house. We split. Now has a terrible co-parent who I have to deal with forever. Stayed single for 7 years after him until I met my now husband who is a gem. Dated 5 years, me 18 to 23, him 20 to 25. We broke up amicably because we had different lifestyle goals that wouldn't work together well. We decided to stay friends and weren't looking for new relationships. Half a year later he said he'd started seeing someone and couldn't talk to me anymore. Now, reflecting, I realized that we jumped into an intense and codependent relationship before we were wise enough to maintain healthy levels of independence. It didn't help that each of us was in a vulnerable place due to life events and acted as the other's support in ways that I now wish we didn't. This last year I've had feelings of abandonment come up nearly every day. Sometimes I'm sad to have lost him. Sometimes I'm mad at him. Sometimes I'm mad at myself for my codependent behaviors. I've been seeing a great therapist since before we broke up. She helped me get out of this ineffective relationship and gain confidence in my independence. But it's still been a long and painful process for me. I don't know the rest of the story because I'm still in my 20s. Still, I'm really proud of the things I've done by myself and for myself since that relationship ended. Met my ex at 20 and broke it off at 25. We were at similar places in life when we met. but he decided to focus on being a mooch and I focused on becoming an adult. Should have broken it off sooner. I've been able to do more in the last 2 years than in those 5. Now I have a wonderful partner who is the complete opposite of my ex. After a couple years, I ended up marrying him. We'll be celebrating our 15th anniversary later this year. Met my husband at university. He was my second relationship. I was his first. We were both 19. Been together since. Got married at 28. We're 34 now, and he's my best friend. I don't know how to adult without him. We own a house and have a cat and a Boston Terrier. I love my life. Hi, I have some questions, if you don't mind. Your situation is almost exactly as mine. The only difference is that we are 21 and 22. I'm curious. Are you still in love with each other after so many years? And did either one of you at some point in the relationship feel like they have missed out on experience? Sure. In love could mean different things. Do I love him? Of course. And vice versa. Is the same as when we were 19, 23. No. The new relationship butterflies go away. We irritate each other. We argue about stupid things etc. But I know he loves me and will always have my back. I did go through a phase where I was worried because I wasn't feeling the new love feelings. And did that mean I don't love him anymore? Exclamation mark. Then all I have to do is imagine my life without him, and I realize Disney and Hollywood lied and love evolves. And as to your second question, yes, I can't speak for him, but there are things that I wish I had been able to do in my 20s and even now. That would be easier if I was single, like 3-month out residences and traveling alone. But I could have done these if I had really wanted, and I can still decide to do things. We would support me. The only absolutely would not have happened thing is dating other people in my 20s. I sometimes wonder what my life would have been like if I had made different choices, but I don't feel like I missed out because then I wouldn't have him. Does that answer your questions? Met when I was 19. He was 24. Celebrating 11 years together this week. Married 6 years. We have a cat and a house now too. Odd part was, we both knew about 2 or 3 weeks and we were going to get married. We both just knew each other immediately. We never said this to each other for years because we didn't want to scare the other off. Really felt like soulmates. Still does. Met an amazing girl when I was 17. Moved in with her family at 18 when I was cut off by homophobic parents. Moved out together at about 19 and got married a couple years after that. We have our own apartment and took it is and have never been better. She's the light of my life. Not well lol. My first serious relationship started when I was 21. We were together almost 10 years before we got married. Then divorced less than a year later. I'm still learning how to be single, but it's easier than I expected. I had a series of serious relationships in my younger 20s and didn't end up with any of them. So it went well. I was a different person. Needed to go through all the stages and didn't feel like I missed a thing. I've been with my husband for 10 years now, and we started dating in late 20s. We have a really good relationship and it's mature. About as much of a dumpster fire as 2020 turned out to be. Started dating when I was 17. He was 19. I moved in with him when I was 22 and deeply in love. Within the first 4 months he did so many things that on their own would have been deal breakers. Combined, I felt like I was going crazy. It felt like I was living in the twilight zone because I genuinely had no idea who I had moved in with. Long story short, make sure you know a person completely before settling down. I got into a relationship when I was 22 that went for a year and a half. He turned out to be abusive and controlling. Then right before I was 24 I met my first husband and we were together for 8 years total, married for 3. I regret both relationships because although my ex-husband wasn't abusive, he was unmotivated and not very supportive. I consider my 20s to be a black hole in terms of relationships and career choices. For the record, I'm 44 now and remarried to a wonderful partner whom I met when I was 35. Marrying your high school/early 20s sweetheart can turn out to be a really pleasant Charming experience, but I've never had it. However, a friend of mine, 27F, had the same boyfriend, HS sweetheart, from age 14 to 25. The whole wedding was planned, and they even bought and fully renovated a beautiful house in the suburbs. When he cheated and left, the whole breakup was super messy. However, I don't fully blame the guy. He was just living in some kinda regret that he did not experience dating to its full extent. The girl married 2 years later to another man and they seem to be happy. I'm currently 30 and single, so not well. The relationships, too, ended upon my choice, and I'll stand by those reasons. But the result is I'm single at the moment. I'm glad that you left those relationships if you weren't feeling fulfilled or entirely happy in them. I think it's better feeling alone by yourself than alone / not really with the person when you're with them. I wish you well. I think it's better feeling alone by yourself than alone / not really with the person when you're with them. Completely agree. Thank you. 3. I dated a man from 24 to 32. We were best friends at times and worst enemies at others. He had never been in a serious relationship, so I was doing a lot, all of the emotional labor. We ended after 8 years. It happened unceremoniously in a Costco parking lot. When told him I just need more affection, he looked at me stone-faced and said that's just not who I am. We hadn't kissed in probably 3 years. If I asked him for a hug, I often got an annoyed sigh. In hindsight, I really wish I had waited until after we got groceries because man, that was an awkward trip. Part of me wishes we never met because of all of the pain and change after something so long. But without that relationship, I wouldn't be in the city I love, in a job I love, with friends I love. If I had to do it all over again, I would hope the redo comes with a fast forward button. I would not want to live that life all over again, but I'm so glad it got me here. Dated a guy from age 22 to 25. We broke up, but that relationship was a game changer. In the end, it wasn't meant to be, but he set the standard of how I should get treated. I had been accepting less than I deserved before and now have a very clear understanding of what a healthy relationship looks like. Even the relationships that don't end in forever are important. I'm much pickier and more confident in myself now, and haven't dated anyone who treats me like less since. Earlier than 20s. Started dating someone when I was 17 and now we are married. We were just incredibly lucky to have found each other as we are a perfect match. I love that we found each other young. I would never want to change that. We just celebrated our 11-year wedding anniversary. I honestly feel like I fell in love all over again with the man he's become. We are trying 4 kids and he's gonna make an amazing father. No regrets. Complicated. If a young person told me they met their one and only, I would highly advise against it. We met at 11, married at 20, had kids by 23, opened our marriage at 25, which in itself went well. But then I realized I don't like men. I'm a lesbian. Had a massive breakdown around 27. Hated my whole life. We fought a lot. Got really toxic. Couldn't afford to separate. Turns out I was gay the whole time, and I had to process the trauma of masking for that long. Coming out helped a lot, and we are still together for now due to strained finances and little kids. We are still extremely close. We are each other's family at this point and that won't change. But things would have been easier if I had waited to know who I am. Started dating at 19 over 21. Got married at 23. Rocky first year due to unaddressed mental health. But now at 26 we're in the best place we've ever been in. Just bought a house. And we're working on expanding our family. Divorce lol. I think that you change when you get near your 30s. We grew into massively different people. We're still mates. He even came to my second wedding, so no regrets. Started dating a 24-year-old when I was 19. Pretty shortly after ending my first serious relationship. I wasn't really sure I was ready for another serious relationship yet, but he was nice and I felt good with him. After 2 years it started feeling really serious and I started panicking and questioning everything, but then I realized I really loved him and I wouldn't want anyone else. We just celebrated our 8th anniversary and got married last year. I consider going on a date with him my best decision ever because it brought me so much happiness and joy. Dated him from 20 to 28. Engaged around 25. Things ended slowly and painfully. You change a lot from your early 20s to 30s. We both did. It was best that we split. Wish we had done it sooner. I'm now 35 and married to a wonderful man. We have 3 kids. Building a life together. Started dating when we were both 19 and we are now both 30 and very happily married with a dog and a condo. We were long distance for the first 4-ish years of our relationship, which of course sucked at the time, but I think turned out to be a long-term blessing in disguise. It gave us time to have our own adventures and friend groups. Even though I've been in the same relationship my entire adult life, we still have our own identities, and I still feel like I got the chance to grow up on my own. I was engaged at age 21. He left me and it sucked. I ended up getting married at 24 to another man who is much more my partner, and we are celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. Started a relationship when I was 15, nearly 16. We were on and off through our teens. Then our relationship I guess properly started in our very early 20s as long distance when we at university. Been living together for about 5 years and are currently trying for a baby. Badly. Been 5 years. Don't logically see how I could ever want to be with anyone again, or anyone wanting to be with me. Like, how do relationships last for a significant amount of time? I think it's statistically impossible. I couldn't stand the idea of another person being in my space now. Married at 24. Divorced at 32. I do not recommend marrying in your 20s. We both changed significantly and rarely have I seen growth towards each other in your 20s. Met when I was 19, he was 18. Became friends 8 or so months later. Started dating when I was 21, and while it was rocky at the beginning because of external influences and us just not knowing how to handle a mature relationship, we worked it out. Got married when I was 25, and now at 27 we just found out that we are expecting our first. So I'd say pretty well. I pursued him when I was 16, and he was 21. Got engaged at 17. Married at 20. No one thought it would last because I was so young and mature, while he was older and immature in terms of finance/life decision making. Our relationship has outlasted that of all my friends and even family at this point. My parents split up shortly after I left the house. I'm currently 32 and he is 37. He has been the most supportive person in my life in terms of my business, which was barely profitable when I was 16, but now pays the bills and all other things. He remains my best friend and my only true confidant. Both of our families are toxic, so we feel like we saved each other. We are child free, so we have no kids, and are free to pursue career changes or hobbies at will. We travel spur of the moment, went on a Valentine's Day train ride just before COVID last year, and inspire each other's hobbies. I write books, and he loves them, which inspires him to do related art. We are also both huge gamers. I like PC gaming more, whereas he's usually on a console, and so we game together in our gaming room, while sharing our individual progress and stories with one another. We have so many inside jokes and references it's nearly impossible to have a third wheel with us who understands everything we talk about. Haha. Sometimes it's hard for me to believe that it's been 16 years, because we are still enjoying life like we are in our early 20s. I'm grateful every day that we met when we did, because life seems so short when 16 years can go by without us even noticing. I want as long as possible with this man. My boyfriend. I'm gay, and I met in our college freshman years. Have not regretted it once. I do live in a part of the world where gay relationships are still looked down upon, but that has never stopped us. Glad to have met him despite the negative energy in my community towards gays. His family was none too pleased that I was willing to help him heal from childhood abuse and didn't hesitate to call them out when they tried to stop us. They sabotaged what could have been a wonderful life together and Stockholmed him. Sadly. So he believe. Very well, I know that I wasn't perfect either. Attempts to resolve those and related concerns failed and made me stronger, though. So I'm grateful for that. Broke up after 5 years. We wanted different things in life. I took a couple of years to get over it and get in touch with myself. I'm in my early 30s and am looking forward to love and commitment. I'm glad you're happier now. Best of luck for the future. I'm excited for you. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.